The mansion's marble floor was covered in broken glass. Chocolate cake splattered the white walls like ugly brown paint. And in the middle of it all, 3 children stood with their arms crossed, smiling like they had just won a war. "Please don't leave us, Miss Carmen," 12-year-old Emma sobbed, her face red and streaked with tears. "We're sorry. We're so sorry." 10-year-old Marcus, the boy who never cried, had tears rolling down his cheeks. "We'll do anything you say, just don't go." Even 8-year-old Lily, the wildest of them all, was on her knees. "We promise we'll be good. Please stay." But Carmen Rodriguez just stood there, her dark eyes calm and steady. She looked at the 3 children who had terrorized every adult in this house for years, the same kids who had made 17 maids quit, the same kids who had just tried their worst trick on her only hours ago. Her suitcase sat by the door. The children's father, Billionaire James Wellington, watched from the doorway with his mouth open. He had never seen his children beg for anything in their lives. Carmen's hand moved toward the suitcase handle. The children held their breath. What had happened just hours before to make these wild, spoiled kids fall to their knees and beg? What had this woman done that no one else could do? The story began 3 days earlier. "Another one quit," James Wellington said into his phone, running his hand through his gray hair. He stood in his corner office on the 45th floor of Wellington Tower, looking down at the busy city below. "That's 17 maids in 6 months, Patricia." His assistant's voice crackled through the speaker. "Sir, I'm running out of agencies to call. Word is spreading. No one wants to work with your children anymore." James closed his eyes. He loved his kids more than anything in the world, but they were difficult. Ever since their mother died in a car accident 2 years ago, Emma, Marcus, and Lily had become wild. They didn't listen to anyone. They played terrible tricks. They made every babysitter, nanny, and maid run away screaming. "What about military schools?" James asked quietly. "You've tried 3. They all sent the children back within a week." James felt his heart break a little more. He worked 14 hours a day building his business empire, but he was failing as a father. His children were hurting, and he didn't know how to help them. "Sir?" Patricia's voice was gentle. "There's one more agency I haven't called. It's different." "Different how?" "They specialize in difficult cases. Very difficult cases. Their people don't quit easily." James straightened up. "Call them. Today, I'll pay whatever they want." 2 hours later, James drove his black Mercedes up the long driveway to his mansion. The house had 37 rooms, a swimming pool, a tennis court, and gardens that cost more than most people's houses. But it felt cold and empty without his wife Sarah's laughter filling it. He found his children in the living room. Emma sat in a chair reading, but James could see her eyes weren't moving across the page. Marcus was building something with blocks, but he kept knocking it down on purpose. Lily was coloring, but she was pressing so hard with her crayon that she was tearing the paper. "Kids," James said, sitting on the couch. "We need to talk." All 3 children looked up. They had their mother's bright blue eyes, but now those eyes were guarded and suspicious. "Another maid is coming tomorrow," James said gently. Emma threw her book on the floor. "Good. I hated Mrs. Chen anyway. She smelled like old flowers." "She was mean," Marcus added, his voice flat. "She yelled at us all the time." "Because you put glue in her hair," James said, his voice rising despite himself. Lily giggled. "It was funny. She looked like a porcupine." James rubbed his temples. Every conversation with his children ended like this now. "This has to stop. You can't keep driving away every adult who tries to help us." "We don't need help," Emma said, crossing her arms. "We have each other. And you have me," James said. "Do we?" Marcus asked quietly. "You're always at work." The words hit James like a punch to the stomach. It was true. Since Sarah died, he had buried himself in work because it hurt less than being home without her. But his children needed him. "I'm trying my best," James said softly. "Well, your best stinks," Emma said, her voice cracking. She ran out of the room. James watched his oldest daughter disappear up the grand staircase. Marcus and Lily followed her without a word, leaving James alone in the enormous room. That night, James couldn't sleep. He walked the halls of his mansion, looking at family photos that lined the walls. In every picture, Sarah was smiling. Her laugh had been like music. Her hugs had made everything better. She had been the glue that held their family together. Now that the glue was gone, everything was falling apart. James stopped at his children's rooms. Emma's door was closed, but he could hear her crying softly. Marcus was talking to himself, having conversations with toy soldiers. Lily was singing the lullaby Sarah used to sing, but she was getting the words wrong. His children were breaking, and he didn't know how to fix them. The next morning, James left for work early. He couldn't face another breakfast of thrown food and angry words. His assistant Patricia had scheduled back-to-back meetings to keep him busy. But at 2 p.m., his private phone rang. Only his children had this number. "Dad?" It was Emma, and she sounded scared. "What's wrong?" James stood up so fast his chair spun. "The new maid is here." "That's good, sweetheart. Be nice to her, okay?" "Dad, she's different." James could hear Marcus and Lily whispering in the background. "Different how?" "She's not scared of us." James felt a chill run down his spine. Every adult who entered his house looked at his children like they were wild animals. "What do you mean?" "She just looked at us. Really looked at us. Like she could see inside our heads. And Dad?" "Yes, I think she knows all our tricks already." The phone went dead. James stared at his phone for a long moment. In all the chaos of the last 2 years, his children had never sounded scared of an adult. Worried? Yes. Angry? Yes. But never scared. He tried calling back, but no one answered. At his mansion, Carmen Rodriguez stood in the kitchen, unpacking her small suitcase. She was 42 years old, with dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail and kind but firm brown eyes. She wore jeans and a plain white t-shirt. No fancy uniform, no nervous smile. The 3 Wellington children watched her from the doorway, like lions studying their prey. Carmen had read their files on the drive over. Emma Wellington, age 12, genius-level IQ, had made the last maid quit by convincing her the house was haunted. Marcus Wellington, age 10, a mathematical prodigy, had created elaborate booby traps that had sent 3 maids to the hospital. Lily Wellington, age 8, artistic talent off the charts, had used her skills to forge notes that got 5 maids in trouble with their agencies. These weren't just naughty children. They were brilliant, hurt, and angry. They had turned their pain into weapons. Carmen had seen worse. "Are you going to introduce yourselves?" Carmen asked without turning around. The children exchanged glances. Most adults either ignored them or tried too hard to be their friends. This woman was doing neither. "I'm Emma," the oldest said carefully. "These are my brothers, Marcus and Lily." "Lily's not a boy," Marcus said quickly. "I know," Carmen said, still unpacking. "I also know that you've made 17 adults quit this job. I know about the fake ghost recordings, the bucket of water over the door, the super glue on the toilet seat, and the time you convinced a maid that your father was a vampire." The children's mouths fell open. How did she know about all that? Carmen turned around and looked at each child for a long moment. Her eyes were calm but sharp, like she was reading their souls. "I also know that you miss your mother very much," she said quietly. "And you're angry that she left you, and you're scared that everyone else will leave too. So you make them leave first, before they can hurt you." Lily started to cry. Not fake tears like she used to manipulate adults, but real tears that came from somewhere deep inside. "You don't know anything!" Emma shouted, but her voice was shaking. Carmen knelt so she was at eye level with the children. "My mama died when I was 10 years old. My papa worked all the time. I was so angry, I tried to burn down my school." The children stared at her. "Did you succeed?" Marcus asked quietly. Carmen smiled, and for the first time, her face looked warm. "Almost. I got sent to live with my grandmother. She was the toughest woman I've ever met. She saved my life." "How?" Lily whispered. "She showed me that being angry was okay. Being sad was okay. But hurting other people because I was hurt? That wasn't okay." Emma wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "What happened to your grandmother?" "She died last year. That's why I'm here. She taught me how to help kids who are hurting like I was hurting. The children were quiet for a long moment. Are you going to try to make us good? Marcus asked suspiciously. Carmen laughed, and the sound filled the big, empty kitchen with warmth. Honey, I don't want you to be good. Good is boring. I want you to be better. Better than you were yesterday. Better than you thought you could be. She stood up and clapped her hands together. But first, we need to talk about the rules. We don't follow rules, Emma said, crossing her arms. I know, Carmen said. That's why you're going to help me make them. The children looked at each other, confused. Adults usually made rules and forced kids to follow them. No adult had ever asked for their help before. Rule number 1, Carmen said, walking to the refrigerator and pulling out ingredients. No one in this house goes hungry, ever. So we're going to cook dinner together every night. We don't know how to cook, Lily said. You're going to learn. What if we don't want to? Emma challenged. Carmen shrugged. Then you'll be hungry. Your choice. Marcus frowned. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, sweetheart. Your mama dying wasn't fair. Your papa working so much isn't fair. But we can choose how we handle unfair things. Carmen started pulling pots and pans from the cabinets. Rule number 2. We tell the truth in this house. Always. Even if it hurts. Especially if it hurts. What if the truth gets us in trouble? Marcus asked. Then we deal with the trouble together. Carmen looked at each child again. Rule number 3. We take care of each other. All of us. That means you 3 take care of each other. I take care of you. And you help me take care of this house and this family. We're not a family, Emma said quietly. Families don't fall apart. Carmen's eyes softened. Oh, honey, families fall apart all the time. But the best families, they put themselves back together. Different than before, maybe, but stronger. She handed Emma a wooden spoon. Your job is to stir. Marcus, you're in charge of measuring. Lily, you get to taste everything and tell me if it needs more flavor. The children hesitated. What happens if we mess up? Lily asked. Then we mess up together, and we figure out how to fix it. Slowly, one by one, the children stepped forward. For the first time in 2 years, the Wellington kitchen was filled with laughter instead of shouting. Carmen taught them how to make her grandmother's rice and beans recipe. When Marcus accidentally added salt instead of sugar, they all laughed. When Lily dropped an egg on the floor, Carmen showed her how to clean it up without being upset. When Emma asked about Carmen's mother, Carmen told them stories that made them laugh and cry at the same time. She sounds like she was wonderful, Emma said softly. She was, Carmen agreed. Just like your mama was. The children were quiet for a moment. Do you think? Lily started, then stopped. What, baby? Do you think our mama would be proud of us for how we've been acting? Carmen set down her spoon and looked at Lily seriously. I think your mama would understand why you've been acting this way, and I think she'd want you to stop hurting so you could start healing. How do we stop hurting? Marcus asked. We don't stop hurting, honey. We learn to hurt better. We learn to let the people who love us help carry the hurt. That night, for the first time since their mother died, all 3 children ate dinner at the table. They didn't throw food. They didn't run away. They talked about their day and asked Carmen questions about her life. When James came home at 9 p.m., he found his children in the living room with Carmen, working on a puzzle together. Dad! Lily jumped up and hugged him. Carmen taught us how to make rice and beans! James looked at Carmen in amazement. His children hadn't been excited to see him in months. She told us stories about her mama, Emma added. And she said we could tell her stories about our mama, too. Marcus, who rarely showed emotion, smiled. She's not like the other maids, Dad. She's better. That night, James tucked his children into bed for the first time in a year. They didn't fight him. They didn't complain. Emma even asked if Carmen would still be there in the morning. I hope so, James said, kissing her forehead. But as he walked downstairs, James felt a familiar dread creeping in. This was how it always started. A good first day, maybe even a good first week. Then his children would test the new maid, push boundaries, and eventually, the adult would quit. He found Carmen in the kitchen, Washing dishes. Thank you, he said quietly. I haven't seen them this calm in 2 years. Carmen smiled. They're good kids, Mr. Wellington. They're just hurt. How long do you think you'll last? James asked, then immediately felt bad for the question. Carmen dried her hands on a towel and looked at him directly. That depends. On what? On whether you're ready to be part of the solution. James felt his defenses go up. I work hard to provide for my family. I know you do. But your children don't need more money, Mr. Wellington. They need their father. I do my best. Your best isn't working. Carmen's voice was gentle but firm. Your children are drowning, and you're throwing them life preservers from the shore instead of jumping in the water. James felt anger flash through him. You don't know what you're talking about. You've been here one day. Carmen nodded. You're right. I've been here for one day. And in that one day, I've seen 3 brilliant, loving children who are starving for their father's attention. They would rather have you angry at them than not have you at all. The words hit James like ice water. I don't know how to help them. Then learn. The same way they're learning to cook, the same way they're learning to trust again. One day at a time. Carmen hung up the dish towel. Good night, Mr. Wellington. I'll see you in the morning. As she walked toward the stairs, James called out, Carmen? She turned. What if I mess up? What if I make things worse? Carmen smiled, and James understood why his children had responded to her so quickly. Then we'll mess up together, and we'll figure out how to fix it. James stood alone in his kitchen for a long time after Carmen left. For the first time in 2 years, he felt something he'd almost forgotten. Hope. But upstairs, Emma lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She had liked Carmen today. More than liked her. For a few hours, it had almost felt normal again. But Emma was 12 years old, and she had learned that normal didn't last. Adults always left. Always. Tomorrow, she decided, she would test Carmen Rodriguez. She would find out if this woman was really different, or if she was just better at pretending. Emma smiled in the darkness. She had a plan. A test that would make or break this new maid within 24 hours. Because if Carmen was going to leave anyway, Emma wanted it to happen fast, before she made the mistake of caring too much. The test Emma had planned would push Carmen to her absolute limit. It would be cruel, calculated, and designed to hit every weakness that had made the other 17 maids quit. What Emma didn't know was that Carmen Rodriguez had survived things that would have broken most adults, and she was about to find out exactly what happened when an unstoppable force met an immovable object. Emma Wellington woke up before the sun rose. Her room was still dark, but her mind was buzzing with plans. She had spent half the night designing the perfect test for Carmen Rodriguez. It wasn't going to be simple like putting glue in someone's hair or hiding fake spiders in their bed. No, this test was going to be surgical, precise. It would target every single thing that made adults run away screaming. Emma crept out of her room and tiptoed down the hall. She could hear Marcus talking in his sleep about math problems, and Lily was making soft humming sounds. Her little sister always hummed when she was dreaming about their mama. The memory made Emma's chest hurt, but she pushed the feeling away. She couldn't afford to be soft today. Emma made her way to her father's study. The door was always locked, but Emma had learned to pick locks from YouTube videos. Within 30 seconds, she was inside. The study was her father's private space. Dark wood shelves lined the walls, filled with boring business books. His massive desk sat in front of tall windows that looked out over the gardens. And in the corner, behind glass doors, was what Emma needed, her father's liquor collection. Emma's heart pounded as she carefully opened the cabinet. She pulled out an expensive bottle of whiskey and unscrewed the cap. The smell made her wrinkle her nose. How did adults drink this stuff? But smell wasn't the point. Emma carefully poured whiskey all over herself, her pajamas, her hair, her hands. She rubbed it on her neck and face until she reeked of alcohol. Then she put the bottle back, locked the cabinet, and crept back upstairs to her room. Phase 1 was complete. At 7 a.m., Carmen's alarm went off in the small guest room next to the kitchen. She stretched, said a quick prayer like her grandmother had taught her. and got dressed for her second day with the Wellington family. She found James in the kitchen, drinking coffee and checking emails on his phone. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept well. "Good morning, Mr. Wellington," Carmen said warmly. James looked up and smiled. It was a real smile, not the fake ones he usually wore. "Good morning, and please, call me James. After what you did yesterday, I feel hopeful for the first time in months." Carmen poured herself a cup of coffee. "How are you feeling about spending more time with the kids?" James's smile faded a little. "Honestly, terrified. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I make them more upset?" "Then you'll apologize and try again. That's what parents do." Before James could respond, they heard screaming from upstairs. "Help! Somebody help!" It was Marcus, and he sounded terrified. James and Carmen ran toward the stairs, taking them two at a time. They found Marcus standing outside Emma's room, his face white with panic. "She won't wake up!" Marcus cried. "I tried shaking her, but she won't wake up." Carmen pushed past James into Emma's room. The 12-year-old was lying on her bed, perfectly still. Her eyes were closed, and the smell of alcohol was so strong it made Carmen's eyes water. "Oh my God," James breathed. Emma, baby, wake up." He grabbed his daughter's shoulders and shook her gently. Emma's head lolled to the side. She looked completely unconscious. "Call 911, James shouted at Carmen. "Call them right now!" But Carmen didn't move. She stood perfectly still, studying the scene with sharp eyes. "Carmen, what are you doing?" James screamed. "My daughter needs help!" Carmen walked slowly around the bed. She noticed several things that James, in his panic, had missed. Emma's breathing was too steady for someone who was truly unconscious. Her face wasn't pale enough, and the alcohol smell was too strong and too even, like it had been poured on, not consumed. Carmen knelt next to the bed and spoke quietly. "Emma, this is a very good performance, but I need you to sit up now." "What are you talking about?" James yelled. "She's unconscious! She's been drinking!" Carmen ignored him. She gently placed her hand on Emma's forehead. "Sweetheart, I know you're awake. I know you poured whiskey on yourself to make it look like you've been drinking. And I know this is a test." Emma's eyes flew open. James stumbled backward. "What? How did you—" Emma sat up in bed, her face red with embarrassment and anger. "You don't know anything!" "I know that a 12-year-old girl who had actually been drinking wouldn't smell like expensive whiskey. She'd smell like cheap vodka or beer that she stole from someone's garage." Carmen's voice was calm and matter-of-fact. "I know that real alcohol poisoning doesn't leave someone lying perfectly straight in their bed. And I know that you're way too smart to actually drink something that would hurt you." Emma's mouth opened and closed like a fish. No adult had ever seen through one of her tricks so easily. Marcus peeked around the doorframe. "Emma, are you okay?" "I'm fine," Emma snapped. Then she looked at Carmen with pure hatred. "You think you're so smart." "I think you're hurting," Carmen said simply. "And I think you wanted to see if I would panic and run away like the others did." James was still trying to understand what had happened. You faked being unconscious?" Emma crossed her arms and glared at her father. "So what if I did? You probably wouldn't have even cared if it was real." The words hit James like a slap. "Emma, how can you say that? Of course I would care." "Would you? Or would you just send me to another boarding school so I wouldn't bother you anymore?" James felt tears spring to his eyes. "Emma, I love you more than anything in the world." "Then why are you never here?" Emma's voice cracked. "Why do you care more about your stupid job than you do about us?" The room went silent. Marcus had crept closer, and Lily appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes sleepily. "What's happening?" Lily asked in a small voice. Carmen looked around at the broken family. James was crying. Emma was crying. Marcus looked scared. And little Lily was confused and frightened. This was the moment. This was when most adults would throw up their hands and quit. When they would decide that these children were too damaged, too difficult, too much work. Carmen had seen it happen before, in her own life and in the lives of the dozens of children she had worked with over the years. But Carmen Rodriguez had not survived her own childhood, lost her grandmother, and dedicated her life to helping hurt kids just to give up now. "Okay," she said, clapping her hands together. Everyone downstairs, right now. I'm not going anywhere, Emma shouted. Carmen looked at her with steady eyes. Yes, you are. Because we're going to talk about this. All of it. As a family. We're not a family, Emma screamed. Yes, we are, Carmen said firmly. A messy, broken, hurting family. But still a family. And families don't give up on each other. She turned to James. You too, Mr. Wellington. No phone, no work, no distractions. Just you and your children. James wiped his eyes. Carmen, I have a meeting. Cancel it. I can't just... Carmen's voice became steel. Your daughter just pretended to have alcohol poisoning to get your attention. Your son is so scared of losing people that he panics when his sister won't wake up. Your youngest daughter is walking around this house like a ghost. Cancel. The meeting. James stared at Carmen for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and dialed. Patricia, cancel everything for today. All of it. I don't care what you have to reschedule. He hung up and looked at his children. Daddy's staying home today. Lily's face lit up like Christmas morning. Really? Really, baby girl. 20 minutes later, the entire Wellington family sat around the kitchen table. Emma had changed out of her whiskey-soaked pajamas, but she was still sulking. Marcus kept glancing at the door like he wanted to run. Lily was the only one who seemed happy, swinging her legs and humming softly. Carmen set a plate of scrambled eggs and toast in front of each person. Before we start talking, everyone eats. You can't think clearly when you're hungry. I'm not hungry, Emma muttered. Eat anyway. Hi, Feeks. You can't make me. Carmen sat down at the table with her own plate. You're right. I can't make you do anything. But I'm going to sit here and eat my breakfast, and then I'm going to tell you all some things you need to hear. Whether you eat or not is up to you. Emma glared at her food, but after a few minutes, she picked up her fork and took a small bite. Carmen waited until everyone had eaten at least half their breakfast. Then she looked around the table. Emma, that was a very smart plan this morning. You're probably one of the most intelligent 12-year-olds I've ever met. Emma looked up, surprised. Adults usually yelled at her for her tricks, not complimented them. But, Carmen continued, you used your intelligence to hurt people who love you. And that's not okay. I was just testing you, Emma protested. I know. And do you know what your test told me? Emma shook her head. It told me that you're terrified I'm going to leave. It told me that you're so scared of being abandoned again that you wanted to make me leave quickly, before you could get attached. Carmen's voice was gentle but firm. It told me that you love your family so much, it's killing you to watch it fall apart. Emma's eyes filled with tears. You don't know what you're talking about, don't I? Carmen reached across the table and took Emma's hand. When I was your age, I convinced my teacher that I was being abused at home because I wanted someone to pay attention to me. I made up horrible lies about my papa because I was angry that he worked all the time after my mama died. Emma stared at Carmen. What happened? They took me away from my papa for 3 days, put me in a foster home with strangers. And you know what I learned? What? I learned that getting attention by hurting people doesn't fix the hurt inside you. It just makes it more hurt. Carmen turned to James. And you, Mr. Wellington, you're not a bad father, but you're a scared father. You're so afraid of doing something wrong that you're not doing anything at all. James's voice was barely a whisper. I don't know how to help them. Sarah was the one who knew what to do. I feel lost without her. We all feel lost without Mama, Marcus said quietly. It was the first thing he'd said since the crisis in Emma's room. Lily climbed down from her chair and went to hug her father. It's okay, Daddy. We can be lost together. James wrapped his arms around his youngest daughter and started crying again. I'm so sorry, kids. I'm so sorry. Emma watched her father cry, and something inside her chest cracked open. Daddy, I'm sorry too. I'm sorry for being so mean. You're not mean, sweetheart. You're hurt. We're all hurt. Carmen let the family have their moment. This was what she had been waiting for. Not the perfect solution, not the magical fix, but the first real, honest conversation this family had shared in 2 years. After a few minutes, she spoke again. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to make new rules for this family. Real rules that everyone follows, including the adults. What kind of rules? Marcus asked. Carmen stood up and went to the counter. She pulled out a notebook and a pen. Rule number 1. No more lies in this house. Not from the kids. Not from the adults. If you're sad, you say you're sad. If you're angry, you say you're angry. If you miss your mama, you say you miss your mama. She wrote it down. Rule number 2. No more testing people to see if they'll leave. If you're scared someone is going to abandon you, you tell them you're scared. What if they leave anyway? Emma asked quietly. Then we deal with it together. But we don't make people leave by treating them badly. Carmen kept writing. Rule number 3. Family time is sacred. That means no phones, no work, no distractions. Just us, talking and being together. James nodded. I can do that. Rule number 4. Everyone gets a job in this house. Real jobs that matter. Because this is your family, and families take care of each other. What kind of jobs? Lily asked excitedly. We'll figure that out together. Rule number 5. When someone in this family is hurting, we all help carry the hurt. No one suffers alone. Carmen set down the pen and looked at each family member. These rules are going to be hard to follow. We're all going to mess up sometimes. But when we mess up, we apologize, we forgive each other, and we try again. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, What if you decide we're too much trouble? What if you leave like all the others? Carmen knelt next to Emma's chair. Sweetheart, I'm not going anywhere. Not because this job is easy. It's not. Not because you kids are perfect. You're not. I'm staying because this family is worth fighting for. How do you know? Emma whispered. Because I was you once. A smart, hurt, angry kid who pushed everyone away because it felt safer than letting them close. And my grandmother didn't give up on me. She saved my life by staying when everyone else left. Carmen took Emma's hands. I'm going to save your life by staying too. No matter what tricks you try, no matter how hard you push, no matter how many times you test me, I'm not leaving. For the first time in 2 years, Emma Wellington believed an adult who promised not to leave her. But even as the family began to heal, none of them knew that the biggest challenge was still coming, because later that day, James would get a phone call that would threaten to destroy everything they had just built. And this time, it wouldn't be a test or a trick or a game. This time, the threat to their family would be real. The phone rang at exactly 3:47 p.m., just as James was teaching Lily how to play chess while Emma and Marcus helped Carmen bake cookies. For the first time in months, the mansion felt like a home. James almost didn't answer, but when he saw his lawyer's name on the caller ID, something cold settled in his stomach. Hello, Richard. James, we have a problem. A big one. James walked into his study and closed the door. What kind of problem? Sarah's parents are suing you for custody of the children. James felt the world tilt sideways. What did you just say? The Hendersons filed papers this morning. They're claiming you're an unfit father. They have documentation of 17 maids quitting, reports from 3 military schools that sent your kids back, and... Richard paused. James, they have photos. Photos of what? Your children's behavior. Destroyed rooms, food fights, Emma's fake haunting setup. Someone's been documenting everything for months. James collapsed into his desk chair. Sarah's parents, Robert and Margaret Henderson, had never liked him. They thought Sarah had married beneath her when she chose a middle-class businessman over the wealthy lawyer they'd picked out for her. But James had won them over eventually. Or so he'd thought. How is this possible? They live in Boston. They haven't seen the kids in over a year. They hired a private investigator. James, they have video footage of Emma screaming at Mrs. Chen, the maid who quit last week. They have hospital records from when Marcus's booby trap injured that nanny. They have everything. James's hands shook as he gripped the phone. What do they want? Full custody. They claim the children are traumatized and that you've abandoned them emotionally. They want to take Emma, Marcus, and Lily to Boston to provide the stable home environment they deserve. The words hit James like bullets. He thought about Emma teaching Lily how to measure flour just an hour ago. About Marcus actually smiling when his father helped him with math problems. About the progress they'd all made in just 2 days with Carmen. Richard, we were finally getting better. The kids, they're healing. I believe you, James. But a judge is going to look at 2 years of chaos versus 2 days of improvement, and the Hendersons are painting a picture of wealthy grandparents who can provide stability, private tutors, therapy, everything the kids need. Money isn't what they need, James exploded. They need their father. Then prove it. The hearing is scheduled for next Friday, 1 week from today. You need to show the court that you've changed, that the children are thriving, that you can provide the home they need. James hung up the phone and buried his face in his hands. 1 week. How could he prove in 1 week that he was a good father when he'd had 2 years to get it right and failed? A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Dad? Emma's voice came through the door. Are you okay? You sounded upset. James quickly wiped his eyes. Come in, sweetheart. Emma entered the study, her face worried. She was still wearing the apron Carmen had given her for baking, and there was flour in her hair. She looked so young, so innocent. Nothing like the wild child who had terrorized 17 maids. Who was on the phone? Emma asked. James hesitated. The new family rules said no more lies. But how could he tell his 12-year-old daughter that her grandparents wanted to take her away from him? Dad? Emma stepped closer. You promised no more lies, remember? James felt his heart break. Sit down, Emma. We need to talk. Emma's face went pale. Oh no. Someone's leaving, aren't they? Carmen's leaving. No, baby. Carmen's not leaving. But James took a deep breath. Your grandparents, Grandma and Grandpa Henderson, want you and Marcus and Lily to come live with them. Emma blinked. In Boston? Forever? They think I'm not taking good care of you kids. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Are they right? The question destroyed James. I don't know, sweetheart. I tried my best, but maybe my best wasn't good enough. Emma sat down in the chair across from her father's desk. She looked very small in the big leather chair. Dad, do you want us to go live with them? Never. The word came out like a roar. Never, Emma. You kids are my whole world. I would rather die than lose you. Then why are you talking like we're already gone? James stared at his daughter. When had she gotten so wise? Because I'm scared, Emma. I'm scared that I messed up so badly that a judge will decide you'd be better off without me. Emma got up from her chair and walked around the desk. She climbed into her father's lap like she used to when she was little. Daddy, she said softly, I don't want to live with Grandma and Grandpa Henderson. They smell like old people's medicine, and they never let us do anything fun. Despite everything, James almost smiled. That's not a very nice thing to say about your grandparents, but it's true. And you said we have to tell the truth now. Emma wrapped her arms around her father's neck. I want to stay here with you and Carmen and Marcus and Lily. This is our home. Even after everything that's happened? Even though I worked too much and wasn't there when you needed me? Emma pulled back to look at her father's face. Dad, Mama used to say that love isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, even when you're scared. James felt tears rolling down his cheeks. Your mama was very smart. She was. And she would want us to fight for our family. Before James could respond, the study door burst open. Marcus and Lily tumbled in, followed by Carmen. Dad, Marcus said, the bad grandparents want to steal us, Lily announced, her face scrunched with worry. They're not bad grandparents, James said gently. They just think they can take better care of you than I can. Marcus crossed his arms. That's stupid. You're our dad. Marcus, language. But it is stupid. Marcus's voice cracked. We don't want to go live in Boston. We want to stay here. Carmen had been quiet, but now she stepped forward. Mr. Wellington, can I speak with you privately? James nodded. Kids, go finish the cookies with Carmen. We'll talk more about this later. But Dad, Emma started. Go, please. I need to think. The children reluctantly left the study, but James could hear them whispering in the hallway. Carmen closed the door behind them. How much time do we have? She asked. 1 week. The hearing is next Friday. Carmen was quiet for a moment. What does your lawyer think your chances are? James laughed bitterly. Not good. The Hendersons have money, they have evidence of all the chaos, and they have a clean record. I have a track record of failure. You have something they don't have. What's that? You have children who love you, children who are healing, children who want to stay with their father. Carmen sat down across from James. But you're right about one thing. 1 week isn't enough time to undo 2 years of damage, not in the eyes of the law. James felt hope drain out of him. So, we're going to lose. Not if we're smart about this. Carmen leaned forward. Tell me about the Hendersons. What kind of people are they? Rich, powerful, connected. Robert Henderson is one of the top lawyers in Boston. Margaret comes from old money. They live in a mansion on Beacon Hill. They belong to all the right clubs. They know all the right people. And how do they treat the children? James thought about it. They love them, in their way. But they're very formal, very rigid. Emma has to wear dresses and sit quietly. Marcus can't build his inventions because they're too messy. Lily can't sing or dance because it's too loud. Carmen nodded. So they want to love your children by changing them into different people. I never thought of it that way, but yes. And you want to love them exactly as they are. Yes. Carmen smiled. Then we have a chance. But we need to be strategic. And we need the children's help. Carmen, I can't ask my kids to testify against their grandparents. That's not fair to them. I'm not talking about testimony. I'm talking about showing the judge who these children really are, who they become when they're loved unconditionally. Carmen stood up and began pacing. The Hendersons have evidence of chaos and destruction. But what if we could show evidence of healing? What if we could prove that these children aren't broken, they're just hurt, and they're getting better? How? Leave that to me. But I need you to do something, Mr. Wellington. I need you to be the father these children deserve, not just for the next week, but forever. Because if you're not ready to change, really change, then maybe the Hendersons are right. James felt anger flash through him. Of course I'm ready to change. I love my children. Love isn't enough. Carmen's voice was steel. Love without action is just words. Your children need you to show up every day, even after this court case is over. Even when it's hard, even when work is calling, and you're tired and you just want to hide. I can do that. Can you? Because if you win custody and then go back to working 14 hours a day, you'll have won the battle but lost the war. Your children will be legally yours, but they'll still be emotionally orphaned. James was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, What do you need me to do? First, call your office. Tell them you're taking family leave for the next 2 weeks. No calls, no emails, no meetings, nothing. Carmen, I can't just abandon my company. You're not abandoning it. You're prioritizing your family. There's a difference. James hesitated. His company was his life's work. But Emma and Marcus and Lily were his life's purpose. He picked up the phone. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, the 3 Wellington children were having their own emergency meeting. We can't let them take us to Boston, Emma said, mixing cookie dough with more force than necessary. Grandma Henderson makes us eat dinner at 5 p.m. sharp, and we're not allowed to talk during meals. And Grandpa Henderson smells like cigars, Marcus added, and he always tells me I'm too loud when I'm excited about math. Lily, who was only 8 but wise beyond her years, climbed up on a chair. We need to help Dad and Carmen fight the mean grandparents. They're not mean, Emma said automatically. They just don't understand us. Same thing, Marcus muttered. Emma thought about this morning, when she had pretended to be unconscious. She had expected Carmen to panic, to call an ambulance, to prove that she was just like all the other adults who couldn't handle the Wellington children. Instead, Carmen had seen right through her. Carmen had understood that the fake emergency was really a cry for help. What if we showed everyone how much better we are now? Emma said slowly. What if we proved that Dad and Carmen are helping us heal? How? Marcus asked. Emma's eyes lit up with the same intelligence that had helped her terrorize 17 maids. But this time, she was going to use her gifts to save her family instead of destroying it. I have a plan. Over the next 3 days, something magical happened in the Wellington mansion. James kept his promise to focus on his children. He taught Marcus advanced mathematics. He helped Emma with her writing. He played dress-up with Lily and actually enjoyed it. Carmen orchestrated family activities that were both fun and healing. They cooked meals together, telling stories about Sarah while they worked. They built a fort in the living room and had a sleepover, all 5 of them crowded together like a real family. But more importantly, Carmen was documenting everything. She took photos of James reading bedtime stories. She recorded videos of the children laughing and playing together. She wrote detailed notes about their progress. "What are you doing?" Emma asked, finding Carmen writing in her notebook after dinner on Wednesday night. "Building our case," Carmen said. "Your grandparents have evidence that you kids were struggling, but I'm going to show the judge evidence that you're healing." Emma looked over Carmen's shoulder. The notebook was filled with observations. Day 3. Emma helped Marcus with his math homework without being asked. She was patient and kind, showing no signs of the aggression reported by previous maids. Day 4. Lily had a nightmare about her mother. Instead of acting out, she went to her father for comfort. James held her until she fell asleep. No destructive behavior. Day 5. Marcus created an elaborate marble run in the living room. When it accidentally broke, he cleaned it up without having a meltdown. Shows increased emotional regulation. "You're writing down the good stuff about us," Emma realized. "I'm writing down the truth about you. You kids aren't monsters. You never were. You were just hurt and scared and angry. And now you're healing." Emma was quiet for a moment. "Carmen, what if it doesn't work? What if the judge still says we have to go live with the grandparents?" Carmen set down her pen and looked at Emma seriously. "Then we'll deal with that together. But Emma, I want you to know something. No matter what happens in that courtroom, you are worthy of love. You are worthy of staying with your father. And you are worthy of a family that sees the real you." "How do you know?" "Because I see the real you. And she's wonderful." That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Friday's hearing, about the possibility of leaving her father and Carmen and moving to Boston to live with her grandparents, who wanted to change everything about her. She crept out of her room and found Carmen sitting in the kitchen, also unable to sleep. "Hey," Emma said softly. "Hey, yourself. What are you doing up? Scared about Friday?" Carmen patted the chair next to her. "Come sit. Let's talk about it." Emma curled up in the chair. "Carmen, I need to tell you something. About the other maids." "What about them?" Emma took a deep breath. "We weren't just being naughty. We were trying to find someone who wouldn't give up on us. Someone who would fight for us even when we were at our worst." Carmen nodded. "I know." "You do?" "Emma, honey, I've worked with a lot of hurt kids. The ones who act out the most are usually the ones who need love the most. You kids weren't trying to drive people away. You were trying to find someone strong enough to stay." Emma felt tears rolling down her cheeks. "What if we lose on Friday? What if I never see you again?" Carmen reached over and took Emma's hand. "Look at me, sweetheart." Emma looked up. "No matter what happens, you will always be my kid. Not legally, maybe, but in my heart. And if you go to Boston, I will write to you every single day. I will call you every week. I will fight to visit you. Because that's what people who love you do. They don't give up. Promise?" "I promise." But even as Carmen made that promise, she was planning something that could change everything. Something risky and bold and possibly illegal. Because Carmen Rodriguez had not survived her own childhood just to watch 3 more kids get torn away from the family that loved them. And tomorrow, she was going to make a phone call that would either save the Wellington family or destroy her own future forever. The phone call Carmen made on Thursday morning was to someone she hadn't spoken to in 5 years. Someone who owed her a favor. Someone who had the power to expose secrets that very powerful people preferred to keep hidden. "Hello, Maria. It's Carmen Rodriguez. I need your help." On the other end of the line, investigative journalist Maria Santos smiled grimly. "I was wondering when you'd call. I've been following the Henderson custody case. Those grandparents aren't as clean as they pretend to be." "What do you mean?" "I mean, Robert Henderson has some very interesting financial records, and Margaret Henderson has some very interesting medical records. Records that might make a judge think twice about giving them custody of 3 traumatized children. Carmen closed her eyes. Maria, I need to know everything. Because if we lose tomorrow, those kids are going to be destroyed.